No phone calls, no messages. Nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore. A professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show right here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And our text line, of course, is running at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. It appears on the screen here in real time. We try to work it into the show in conversation. A lot to talk about today. Later in the show, we should be joined by Scotty Hughes. She is a senior fellow with the Frontiers of Freedom Institute. And you'll see her on Fox, CNN, Newsmax, News Nation all the time. She was a Trump surrogate out in as far back as 2016. Today, back at HQ, flying the board behind the glass. He'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talking conversation at 508-871-7000. Don't forget the station does stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app like thousands of other radio stations do. And if you go to the TuneIn app, take seconds to download if you don't have it. Punch in WCRN. You'll see a really cool new logo, like on my shirt, if you're watching the streaming. And do me a favor, hit the like button. We know you're there, and then we're easy to find on the app. Now, I do stream the show, and we are broadcasting from Cameo Studio, so the Cameo Cam is on today. If you'd like to join us that way, you're welcome to do that. On my social media platforms are Joe Mangi Show, MANGI, Facebook X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and we do stream live to Rumble, as well as the station's Facebook page and YouTube channel, AM 830 WCRN. Go to Facebook. Do me a favor, hit a like button and follow button on our Facebook page as we increase the content that we put onto our social media platforms for the station. All right, lines open, available, 508-871-7000. There is something I do want to talk about. We've got a lot. We got this ICE situation in this federal bill. We'll get into that. It was interesting that Ruth is now, and you heard it, I think, at the top of the news, going to represent himself. And we're approaching Sunday. I think Sunday will be the 1-year anniversary to the attempted assassination when President Trump actually got shot. Bullet hit flesh in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then, of course, Ruth down in the golf course in Florida, hiding out in the bushes, because these people are rocket scientists. Look, I think that we have not been given, and it has not been covered. And I get the media, they don't want to do anything, mainstream media, they don't want to do anything that might humanize Trump or acknowledge any of the positive things he's done as president. But could you imagine if this idiot who shot the president or president candidate at the time, Trump, and Trump didn't turn, right, to look at that big, beautiful chart, and it actually penetrated his skull, and we saw a former president and presidential candidate assassinated in live TV. What would the media coverage be? Why are we not asking the questions that we should be asking and not finding everything out about this kid in Pennsylvania, the phones and the weapons and his movements and associations and all this stuff we waited decades to get the JFK papers released. This is happening now. History was made a year ago. 2 clear assassination attempts. Now, let's get this in perspective, because there's a new report from the United Against Nuclear Iran, UNI. It's calling for sanctions on Iran or Iranian clerics and institutions for issuing fatwas to promote the assassination of President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Fatwa, remember, that's the official sanctioned hit on somebody. Last time, was it Solomon, right? Who is the author? He was attacked on stage because there was a fatwa put on this guy. And at the time that Trump was now, and I can't imagine that Iran has like loosened that want since we bunker busted their nuclear facilities. But going back a year ago, there was absolute credible intelligence that there were Iranian kill teams in the United States, and that this fatwa and hit, if you will, I guess, for lack of a way of putting it, out on Donald Trump at the time. And what were the Democrats trying to do? They were trying to actually strip away his Secret Service protection at that time. And it was only after that attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania, that he started to get more Secret Service protection. Now, Trump's always had private security because he can afford it, and he's always been such a public figure. And a lot of his private security before becoming president, ironically, were former Mossad agents. So now Iran has, or Iranian clerics have fatwas out on Trump, and they've upped it here. This comes, of course, amid the heightened tensions following U.S. and Israeli strikes on the facilities, nuke facilities. And the UANI report highlights 11 Iranian clerics, 2 regime-aligned entities, including a state-run Islamic Republic of Iran broadcasting, accused of issuing these fatwas. Now, fatwa call for the torture and assassination of President Trump, other American citizens as well, and of course, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And of course, this cites Trump's role in the 2020 killing of General Soleimani. That one still hurts. And actions against Iran's nuclear program. And that's a real fresh one, right? The RIB allegedly aired programming, and they promoted a $10 to $20 million bounty on Trump's head. Now, Trump's a sitting United States president. This is an act of war. This is nothing that we should be taking lightly. This is serious. They even solicited donations to fund the assassination plot. Why does this matter? These are not just religious edicts, right? These they're targeted threats against a sitting United States president, signaling a very dangerous escalation, folks. And we need to take it very, very seriously. UANI, now that's led by former Governor Jeb Bush and Ambassador Mark Wallace, is urging the U.S. to designate these clerics and entities, especially designated global terrorists, under Executive Order 13224, because this is so serious. You have a sovereign nation actively attempting to assassinate the sitting president. Ayatollah Nassab Makrim Shirazi, a powerful cleric named the Sultan of Sugar, I'm not sure what the backstory on that is, but known as the Sultan of Sugar, is among those targeted for sanctions due to his influence on the fatwa against Trump. And UNI's policy director, Jason Brodsky, in a Fox interview said these aren't abstract religious statements. They are targeted threats by regime officials against the President of the United States. So UNI wants, they want sanctions. They want law enforcement action, immigration reviews to counter these threats. And whether you like it or not, every Iranian citizen here on a visa of any type, they need to be not just reviewed, but probably interviewed. And we have the same problem, don't we, with China, in the sense that they're passed a law over there And when they pass laws, they just issue the law. It's not like passing a law in the United States, that all citizens and businesses have to work with the CCP, state and intelligence, when requested to do so. And with that one edict of a law, that has made every Chinese citizen around the world, United States, Britain, wherever, an agent or possible agent of Chinese intelligence. We have a similar situation with Iran, don't we? In the sense that they absolutely use your family as leverage on you around the globe. And this isn't the first time Iran has used fatwas to incite violence. And it was Salman Rushdie, that was the name I wasn't quite remembering. Ayatollah Khomeini's fatwa against Salman Rushdie led to a near fatal stabbing just a few years ago. And it was decades after the fatwa was issued, by the way, right? So that thing was sitting out there for a long time till some Iranian zealot has either found themselves with an opportunity or orchestrated the opportunity. So this report warns that these fatwas could inspire lone wolf attacks or coordinated efforts by Iranian proxies, including lone wolf citizens, Iranian citizens that are here on some kind of visa, or maybe not here. Remember, we had millions of people illegally enter this country under the previous administration with no vetting, despite what we were told by Mayorkas and so forth. But first of all, he said the border was secure. In his mind, in that little chimpanzee playing a tambourine in there, he thought it was secure by his definition, but by all reasonable definitions, of course, it wasn't. And this is now after these Iranian-linked assassination attempts in 2024. So tensions are high after U.S. strikes the nukes as well. So this is real serious stuff. But folks, we're coming up to the first break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Today, we'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. And don't forget to follow me on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show, Facebook, X, Instagram, etc. And, of course, you can watch the show streaming anytime on my social media platforms, as well as the station. So we'll be back in 2 in 10, folks. Stick with us.
Hi, folks. This is Mike Stacey, head professional at Norton Country Club, welcoming you to the start of the 2025 golf season. Norton Country Club is a championship 18-hole golf course located just minutes off of 495. The course came through the winter grade, and we're open for daily fee, as well as having membership opportunities and outings available. Our clubhouse is a great venue for your wedding or group gathering needs. If you're interested, call 508-285-2400, extension 1 for events, or 103 for golf, as well as nortoncountryclub.com. Hope to see you out there.
Are you looking for a holistic approach to your health? One that supports your body's natural ability to regulate, adapt, regenerate, and heal? Look no further. The Bioregulatory Medical Institute, BRMI, a nonprofit global organization dedicated to advancing the science and art of bioregulatory medicine, welcomes you to their free and rich library of resources. You'll find articles, podcasts, videos, and more at brmi.online. BRMI believes health freedom is a basic human right, honoring medical ethics and the innate intelligence of the human body. When your body is properly supported, it will thrive. If you're looking for the root cause of illness, physical, emotional, or spiritual, visit brmi.online. brmi.online.
Did you know your business loses $1,685 per employee each year? Poor health doesn't just mean sick days. It drains energy, lowers productivity, and impacts your bottom line. I'm Kelly Hamilton, certified holistic nutritionist, ICU nurse, and owner of A Better Path to Wellness. I help businesses create healthier workplaces so employees thrive and companies save money. Let's optimize the wellness and productivity of your team. Call 774-253-4934 today.
All right, folks. Welcome back here to the second segment of the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central, where you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Don't forget our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. It appears on the screen here in real time, and we try to work it into the conversation. All right, let's go to the phones. Mark is waiting patiently through the break. Hey, Mark, what say you?
I hear that Butler, Pennsylvania, the Secret Service team that was assigned to that failed attempt at security, 6 of them that were on that team that day or that time frame in Butler have been suspended.
Yep.
What? Suspended from what?
Yeah.
Their duties that they didn't do to begin with?
Yeah.
Who are these people?
Yeah. Again, Mark, I go back to my earlier statement, right? We don't know as much as I think we're entitled to know about what happened that day. Not just the shooter who attempted to take the president or the candidate's life at the time, but also the failure in the Secret Service and who these. Now, I don't want to dox these these people or anything. I'm not for that with ICE or Secret Service or anyone else, but they could still be telling us where the breakdown was and
That
what
are telling us
accident.
nothing.
Yeah, they are.
They're telling us. They are telling us nothing. And another thing too. If this isn't enough for anybody with an IQ over 85 to see the seriousness of the situation, I'll put it to you this way in blunt Worcester terms. If I had Trump's money, okay, even a portion of his money,
Mhm.
you know what I'd be doing? I'd be calling in my own personal A-team to secure my person and that of my immediate family. I would not be relying on guess who. No way, Jose. Would you?
Well, Mark, he's actually has done that. Remember now, before he got Secret Service, back in 2016, he had a very, very good private security, bodyguard protection. And I mentioned before,
They weren't on around that day.
most of them were Mossad. Now he became president, and the private can't supersede Secret Service, but he still has private security complementing them, say at Mar-a-Lago and things of that nature. But I get what you're saying, because
Yeah, he did a double up on it.
yeah, I
I
agree. And it's such a horrible thing to say that you have to wonder, right? But you would look, we would at one point we would say, obviously we think the FBI is very patriotic and they're going to be very much out there to protect the president. And of course, now we've found out that Comey rather, and some of these other FBI people, remember the text with the insurance policy between those 2 FBI agents having a little tryst and all that. So no, these are people who are part of our law enforcement, part of the DOJ, and they are actively trying to torpedo, or were trying to torpedo, a presidential candidate and then a president. So no, I'm sorry. We're actually at a point in this country and in our lives, Mark, where we can't totally blindly think that all Secret Service agents are going to do everything within their power.
You know what it's beginning to feel like? I hate to say it, but each one of us as individual citizens, it's starting to feel like, I hate to tell you, buddy, but you're on your own, dude.
Yeah. You mean as far as citizens, that the government isn't
As
there?
far as everything goes, your citizenship doesn't mean squat to these people. You know that, don't you? You've
To a lot of
seen that
people.
clearly demonstrated in the last 4 years with a wide open border. You know what it really was? A silent invasion. Well, in case you don't know, that's what you were really subjected to for 4 years. And there's nobody guarding anything. We are alone. We're on our own. We had no representation.
Yeah. Mark, you have a good point there. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. But yeah, look, I was one of the ones out there saying that, and the first to say that we were having you put it as a silent invasion. I didn't even think it was that silent, because if you watch certain media coverage, you saw it happen live every day, thousands and tens of thousands. And what was always interesting about those 4 years, folks, if you looked at the people who were illegally coming over with no resistance whatsoever or vetting or anything, the majority of these people that came in this country illegally under the Biden administration seemed to be young men, and of fighting age, meaning that 18 to 25, perfect military age, coming in single, not always with families in tow. There were families and all that. I know I don't want to get the text and all that. But if we just go look at the video, they're still out there on all the social media platforms. And we had this incursion, this invasion of fighting age males from all over the globe who came into this country. So now we're dealing with and now DHS has come out, right? Kristi Noem has come out there, and even Tulsi Gabbard. We have some serious concerns about sleeper agents or just people who have come here. Remember that one Iranian guy, the went kind of viral, and when a Border Patrol interacted with him, and you don't know who I am. Wait, you're going to find out. Well, did we investigate that? Did the DHS drill down on that guy and what he meant by that and what was really coming out? But this all comes out to, like everything else, we can speculate, we can talk, we can do these things, but we really have to wait until investigations are done and it all comes out. Now, the sad part about this, folks, is the confidence in the investigations have deteriorated. And this latest thing with this backpedaling on the Epstein files doesn't go a long way to build that confidence. But let me get back to the phones. 508-871-7000. Ken's waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Good afternoon, Joe.
Ken.
One of your professions, Joe, I believe, is as a PI.
Yep, absolutely. Long time, longer than radio. I've been doing PI work.
And you asked at the front of your show, given the anniversary that's coming up on Sunday, why don't we know more about Crooks?
Yeah.
Shooter.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say in the last hour or two, I've talked to a little birdie of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And you may want to go on to Rumble, type in illicit drugs. Thomas Matthew Crooks is his full name. I haven't done that yet. I've gotten more information, but I'm not going to pass it on until I do my research also.
Good. All right. So Thomas Matthew Crooks and illicit drugs, and let's see what happens. We'll try.
You may want to play with the illicit drugs part.
Yeah. Look, there's clearly something deeper there, Ken, right? There's clearly more that went on with this kid. Remember the initial reports and information that came out about the several apps. Now, when they say cryptic and secure apps, that could be WhatsApp and Signal and in those devices, but those all fall under that. But then he was supposedly visited by people, and then the crossover in the gun range, and where are the parents on this? Whatever happened with that, right? How much responsibility do they bear in this? There's just so much missing from that. And then you add this Ruth guy with the attempt down in Florida, and now a lot of this had to do, and there's definitely some kind of connection, especially Ruth, right, with Ukraine. And then he went to Middle Eastern countries trying to recruit soldiers for the Ukrainian army. I mean, was that, Ukraine out and said, of course, they're going to disavow any information after the fact. But did they know what he was doing? I mean, where's some good old fashioned investigative reporting work on this stuff, man?
I don't have any news on the second item from the birdie.
These are rhetorical questions thrown out there for everybody.
Yeah, the part about the illicit drugs I had never heard of until today.
Interesting. Okay. No, thanks for that tip. I'm sure a lot of people are doing that right now.
Yeah, you have listeners.
Yeah.
You should get online. Rumble.
Yeah.
Search under Rumble.
Yeah. I mean, and just as a caution, folks, whenever you do go down these rabbit holes, and we've all done it, is, be a little skeptical, right? Because, anybody can get on there with anything, but try to back it up. But again, Ken, this just speaks to the fact that, and there was a survey, I think last week I saw it somewhere, where just people are using that kind of news source, right? The citizen journalists, the whether it's X or Instagram or people with Rumble channels or YouTube channels, probably Rumble because YouTube actually is way too censoring, who are doing these, and that's why podcasts are so effective. It's because you're not, these podcasts, you don't have a producer yelling 2 seconds in your ear like they do on TV. Joe Rogan will have somebody sit there, whether it's Donald Trump or Elon Musk, for 2 or 3 hours, and you never know where the conversation is going to go. And people trust, that survey was saying how people trust these citizen journalists far more than they do the mainstream media, which makes perfect sense because it's so bought and sold, and they're all part of the whether you want to refer to that as the deep state or just the one, the Beltway cabal that exists there, because it's so incestuous, right? When you start looking at the people, not just on TV, Ken, but behind the scenes, the producers and the people who own these corporations, there's so much crossover and tainting of the pool between government. Look at, we look back, they've done it on a previous show with the flowchart of all these people under the Barack Obama administration. So many people in his cabinet or his administration were married to or having relationships with people in the media. So, can you trust whatever's coming out of them? I mean, it's just all so incestuous.
Another clue, Joe. Big moneyed interests. We're talking.
Don't we always start with big money interest as like the starting point?
But think of the biggest businesses. One in particular that's played a big part in our lives the last 5 years.
Besides X?
Come on, this isn't that hard. Think of it. Who controls the advertising? I'll leave it at that. I'm done.
The advertising?
Bingo.
I still don't know what company you're talking. Every company has their own advertising department.
The industry.
Yeah.
The last 5 years. Come on. That's not hard.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're going with that. Thanks for the call, Ken. Appreciate it. All right, folks, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Stick with us. We'll be back in 2 and 10, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. During the afternoon from west to east, showers will come to an end and taper off. We're going to be left with mostly cloudy, mild and muggy weather out there. Plan on upper 60s and lower 70s this afternoon. Only chance for a pop-up thunderstorm is really going to be where we get breaks of sunshine. The best chance for that is going to be out in western Massachusetts for the afternoon today. Tomorrow, keeping it dry with some increasing sunshine and highs back in the 80s. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Here we go again.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that truly stands out? Experience the Yatco difference. At Yatco, we're dedicated to bringing you the best customer service, the highest quality products, and a commitment to making your life on the go easier. Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quonsigamut Ave in Worcester. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going.
We invite you to listen to the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast with Pastor Ray McMahon.
And I also believe the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. I believe that the fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. I believe Paul was right when he told Timothy.
That's Pastor Ray McMahon with the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast right here on this station.
Jesus is Our Shepherd airs every Sunday at noon right here on 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Thursday show here. The Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central, reminding you, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000 to get into the studio for two-way talk and conversation, 508-871-7000. Our text line is still running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. So yesterday I talked a little bit about the Jamoke here in Massachusetts for the bill for statewide. So again, a state rep who wants to tell a federal agency how to conduct business. So let's put a pin in that, because there's a bill in Congress to bar federal immigration agents from hiding faces, the way they put it. I don't call it hiding faces. They're protecting their identity because they're being doxxed. Now, if we go back and we look at some of the footage from, just a couple of years ago or so, when ICE was out on the street, and again, they were out on the street because these so-called sanctuary, and I say so-called because it's not a real thing. You get that. They just say we're a sanctuary city. There's no mechanism that they get to be on a list, and that means they get to pick and choose laws they want to follow. Wouldn't that be sweet if we could all pick and choose the laws we feel like we can follow? A law is a law is a law. We all are subject to the same laws. Point is, if they cooperated with ICE with these detainer orders, they wouldn't have to go into the streets, into places of employment, etc. So now we have a federal bill, Congress, a congressional bill, to have no masks for ICE, and it's called No Masks for ICE Act. And it aims to stop the federal immigration agents from covering their faces during raids. And of course, this is sparked from all of the surge in arrests in Los Angeles. And I didn't have time to get into the operation in Florida, and I'll try to do that if we can this show. But like over 1,100 ICE arrests in a week down in Florida. Now we have tensions rising over immigration enforcement, of course, but Representative Nadia Velquez, she's a Democrat from, New York, color me surprised, co-sponsored by over a dozen Democrats, including South California lawmakers. This No Mask for ICE Act would ban federal enforcement or federal agents from wearing face coverings during routine immigration enforcement, except for health and safety reasons. And I don't think that we should be forcing our federal agents to have to claim they're wearing a mask because of health reasons or safety reasons. Although, yes, one would argue not the way they mean it, but the safety of themselves and their family is why they're wearing it. Because what are the consequences have been for doxing these guys, for threatening them, threatening their families? This bill requires agents to display visible identification, which, by the way, they already do. The flak jackets and vests that they wear always have one of the agents, what agency they're representing, right? It either says police, federal agent, ICE, it says DHS. You'll see it. They're not going there all blacked out like Delta Force or Black Ops in another country. Their uniforms are marked, including the bill says visible identification, including their name, agency, and mandates the Department of Homeland Security to establish disciplinary procedures for noncompliance with an annual report to Congress. Where's the bill? Where's the outrage from these Democratic lawmakers about having no mask when you're on a protest? And just look, in criminal law, right, there is a difference between committing a robbery as a masked individual and a non-masked individual, just like there is a difference between B&E, breaking into a home in daylight or nighttime. Breaking into a home at nighttime is considered far more severe with more severe consequences. It's a more of a charge opposed to breaking into a home in daylight. so is being masked during a robbery. On the same principle that if you rob a bank and you go into a bank and you're totally unarmed, but if you actually write on a note that you have a gun or that you're armed or that you'll shoot them or anything of that nature, that becomes armed robbery. And I know your first thought might be, well, Joe, if they don't have a gun, it's not technically armed robbery, right? No. If they identify, it's a trans robber, if they identify themselves as having a gun, then legally they have a gun for the purpose of charging them with armed robbery, because they've instilled the same amount of fear. Because that teller or bank employee or customer in the bank, for that matter, they have absolutely no way of knowing whether you're really armed or not. So if you say, I have a gun or I'll shoot you, that is, as far as law is concerned, you're armed. Now, Laura Friedman, a Democrat, do I have to say that, from California, told the LA Times out there, when agents are masked and anonymous, you cannot have accountability. That's not how democracy works. Okay, how many things are wrong with that census? First of all, again, we're not a democracy or elective republic, but let's put a pin in that. Do you think that there are agents running around that the agency doesn't know who their own people are? Do you think that people who work for DHS, FBI, Border Patrol, and ICE kind of just get up every morning, throw on their flak jacket and stuff like that, cover their faces, and then just are cowboys out on the street and they're running around on their own? The federal agency who's running that operation know every single agent involved. So that kind of thing is just asinine to say. No accountability. These agents have a ton of accountability. They have accountability to their supervisors, to the agency, to their oath, to the law. They have specific instructions on what their roles are that day, what their targets are that day, where everyone else is going to be. So to say that they, that's your pea brain on this, that there's no accountability. It's a nice talking point and clip and everything, but it's just absolutely asinine. So to say that that is not how democracy works, you don't even have the basic grasp on democracy. The bill responds to videos now that are out there, but these masked agents that are out there are masking themselves because of the crimes that have been committed against them and the threats and it is a crime to threaten their family. It is a crime to threaten their life. And then there's the criticism about unmarked vans and so forth. Well, that's just also beyond silly. Why does any law enforcement agency, including Worcester Police Department, Framingham Police Department, Marlborough, whatever police department you want to take here, have unmarked cruisers? So they don't draw a lot of attention to themselves. We already have these jamokes who have set up these apps and call numbers and using social media to notify everybody when ICE is in the neighborhood. I saw a clip a week or two ago. I think I mentioned it before. It was interesting because we had a federal agent standing there with all the agents and the vehicles and people in cuffs and stuff behind him, and he was explaining that they had busted a drug house. Right? They were manufacturing, selling, and they came in and they did the police work and determined, okay, they went in. The operation was to arrest the drug traffickers and pushers and all that. But the community, for lack of better way of putting this, decided that this was all about immigration and that this was ICE and they were going after innocent immigrants to arrest them. So think about this for a moment. First, they're wrong. It has nothing to do with ICE, nothing to do with illegals. It had to do with criminals and drugs. And they decided to infer incorrectly that this was going on, which then shows you that they're going to rile everybody up to come in what? What are they going to do? Do they really think that they're going to talk ICE out of not arresting somebody they've come to arrest, or any police officer. When you see these clips on, social media, when the police stop, a traffic stop elevates and the guy's, no, don't arrest me, you're not going to do that. Do you think if you say that enough times to a police officer that they go, all right, fine, you're a lot of hassle, and they let you go on your way? One of the things that we were taught, my sisters and I growing up, drilled into our head because my father was a police officer, is the time to argue with the police is certainly not on the side of the road, especially at 1 or 2 in the morning. You follow lawful orders, you comply. If you're getting arrested, the time to argue is in the courtroom, not there. So that never is going to work, folks. You're never going to convince law enforcement that's there to do a job to stop doing the job. So this agent was saying, this is ridiculous. They think it's ICE. They just assumed it was, but what does that show? That they were willing to harass ICE and defend what they thought might have been an illegal alien that they were there to arrest, not knowing anything about who it is, because that wasn't the issue. They were drug dealers, not illegals. So this stuff is just beyond silly. But since June, ICE and CBP agents have arrested over 2,700 people in Los Angeles, many during high-profile raids. And yes, they're using masks. Yes, they are in plain clothes. Yes, they are in marked vehicles. Because that is normal police procedure. And to say that they need to do anything different than that, you just don't get it, folks. And these California Democrats are arguing that these tactics evoke secret police imagery. It's only because you're assigning that to it. You're saying things that in you're elected, you're in there, and I understand that you can be a moron and get elected to office and know nothing. But once you get in there, you have tons of staff, you have access to the directors, right, of the FBI and Homeland Security and all these people to get briefings and let them tell you, let them brief you and explain how they work. This is another instance of making these assertions and saying things, and you haven't taken the time to learn what you're talking about, folks. But we have to take our third and final break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. All right, Scotty Hughes should be joining us in the fourth and final segment here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. And don't forget our text line at 617-297-8388. Stick with us, folks. We'll be back for our fourth and final segment on the other side, back in 2 and 10.
Polar Park is the place to play, so treat yourself to a private suite at the best ballpark in AAA. Suite rentals are the best way to enjoy a fully catered and climate-controlled experience at the park. Whether you choose to watch the game from inside of the suite or out in your seats, it's the ultimate experience for a special occasion. Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to reserve your suite today.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
Supplements are a tricky business. Some are made in China and other countries with poor quality control. Many supplements contain fillers and dyes that may actually harm you. Many ingredients are not bioavailable and can't be used efficiently by your body. Let Phil George, the biochemist from Wellness Wave Radio, help you navigate these minefields. Just contact Phil at philgeorge@charter.net for a free consult.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN, reminding you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And as promised, joining us is Scotty Hughes, who is a senior fellow at the Frontiers of Freedom Institute, and joining me on the weekly report on a regular basis. Hey, Scotty. Welcome.
Hi. You ragged me yesterday for not having a hat on so I could match you guys. This is the best I could do today. But you get the whole look. You don't get the TV broadcaster look. You get the radio show look.
So for those who aren't on the streaming, Scotty has joined me in our virtual studio, which of course you can watch on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, Mangi, as well as WCRN's Facebook page and YouTube channel. And of course, we do stream live to the Rumble channel. But it's not a fedora.
No,
so it's not a fedora. It's a baseball cap, but I like it. It's a good baseball cap. So that's sweet. That's sweet. Are you in maybe in mirror form right now? Because it seems like your flag is the wrong direction, but maybe that's just me.
No, you're probably right because I'm still trying to. There we go. No, it says mirror camera off on.
Okay.
Take your pick.
All right.
So we can go back and forth. But at least you recognize the flag.
It doesn't matter. Welcome to the show. Remind folks again, where can people follow you, by the way, Scotty?
Well, you can find me obviously right now, just like you, on Frontiers of Freedom website. I'm getting to be featured more and more. Still don't have my little JPEG up yet, but we'll get to that. But find me on X right now at Scotty and Hughes might be the best way, and then it kind of just filters from there.
Okay, I was talking about the bill in Congress now. For telling ICE and federal agents they can't mask up when they go into these situations. And I don't know how much you heard about it. This is so asinine because first of all, we have a Democrat from California saying that this isn't how democracy works. It plays into secret police imagery because that's what you're saying. You're assigning it those values. And having plainclothes officers, having unmarked vehicles, and now because of the actions of being doxxed, and then not just them, but their families being threatened, do we have them now putting masks on? And it's asinine to expect them not to do this. And I don't know if you want to jump in on this and where you are in this. Now we know President Trump won't sign that, in the fact that it's not going to make it through the House anyway. But just the stupidity. It's all performative. It's right. You got to know. They got to know this bill isn't going anywhere.
Well, that is, we talk about red meat for Republicans. That's sour meat for progressives right there. That's what they want to hear. And let me just point out something, and I try to bring the Bible in whenever I can because that's my ultimate reference. It says in there, you're in the end times when good is called evil and evil is called good. And when you have politicians who are elected to office and they are sitting there and they are justifying in putting our law enforcement, who are just following out orders, who are just enforcing the law of the land, and they want to put them and their families in danger, that is evil, trying to say that they are good. And I think that just shows right now how twisted that the extreme progressive movement has become in the United States. And the fact that they're getting any sort of, I even say, claim to fame for this, getting cheered for this amongst their own, just shows how twisted that side of the movement is.
Oh, absolutely. Look, the bill isn't going to go anywhere. We talk about this as asinine, folks. You got to understand these people, and the no accountability part just kills me because every one of those agents have more accountability than probably any of these elected officials have ever had in their life. Not only are they know the agency knows exactly who's on these operations. They've been assigned specific tasks and duties in that operation. They may have covering on their face, but the supervisors, the agency, know who they are, and they're all marked. It all says police, it all says FBI, it says Homeland Security, DHS, whatever it is on that. But also I was talking earlier in the show, Scotty, about the fact that there are these Iranian hit squads out there and the fatwas on Trump. We go back, Sunday's going to be the anniversary of Butler, Pennsylvania. And back then, I mean, the Democrats were trying to strip away his Secret Service protection when the intelligence agencies under the Biden administration knew, in fact, that there were these hits and bounties of $10-20 million on candidate Trump at the time. And they were still trying to strip away that Secret Service protection. And they didn't give it to RFK, too, which to me was also asinine at the time, especially his family. It's just crazy that we have this country, this adversary, who has a sitting hit out on the sitting president of the United States. That's an act of war, isn't it?
Well, let's there's a lot to digest here, and let me just point out, I'm not as much worried about Donald Trump from an international perspective. I'm worried about him from a domestic perspective. Like, for the same reason you just said, you have Democrats stirring up their own base, not worried about their safety. And so you have some extreme progressive groups here in the United States, like what we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania, which was an American that had been radicalized by the Ukrainian military to take out the action that he did, as we saw with the other 4 attempts on President Trump. Same thing. But they were all American citizens here at home that were radicalized.
Including Ruth. Remember now, Ruth said today he wants to represent himself, by the way.
Right.
So good.
Exactly.
Because you get what you pay for, guys. So, and
you
who
do.
was it that said only when it comes to representing yourself, only if, you have a fool for an attorney if that's the case. And he does, but see, representing yourself opens up certain things, because as you representing yourself, you have certain rights and privileges to access information, things you wouldn't as the defendant. But that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole other conversation for another show. But to the point that you're saying right now, listen, watching and being a part of international media like I am, every single country understands that if they were to actively take a hit on President Trump, and God forbid we're actually successful in it, that country would be in line for a direct war, not only with the United States, but with their allies. As much as we want to say that Iran says, they understand that, and most people understand, you take out Donald Trump, you have a much even stronger conservative in J.D. Vance, a long-term showing principled conservative, less neoconic in J.D. Vance. So for international reasons, I can say most countries, most governments, and we can say,
they're
they've
smart
got
enough to know what they're dealing with.
Yeah,
but I want to point
know.
out, because there is you can find the clip. I think I shared it on X, folks. If you want to go look at my profile, I think it was Peter Doocy who asked Trump in one of these, how he is. He just, when he gets, he just goes. I mean, there was a 2-hour cabinet meeting the other day, right? 1 hour, 54 minutes, which exceeds the 9 public cabinet meetings Joe Biden had in 4 years collectively. But the point is, he asked him about Iran and they taking a hit, and Trump's answer was just priceless. He said, "Oh no, I left instructions that they'd be very sorry if they do that, boy. They're just going to be I left instructions." I'm like, I would love to know what those instructions are.
Well, but you have to, and here's the thing, Joe, maybe this is where you and I can have further discussion about this. You have to understand, is there are people within the Trump administration that want to see us at war, and I need specifics, because you have the Iranians that, yes, a lot of them don't like President Trump. Yes, you do have them burning the American flag, but you also have that happening in California, by the way, that don't like the United States, but they're not going to do something so idiotic that would make President Trump, in his popularity right now, a martyr. And so I want to know we need more specific details before we consider, this idea that we're going to actively go against Iran. I have no doubt that there are people there that would like to see Donald Trump, but they're intelligent. They understand what happens next if they take him out. People here at home, they don't understand that. They think they feel justified in their violent actions against him. It's more at home that worries me than anything, the threats that would come from abroad.
Yeah. We only have a few minutes left, but I wanted to switch to, of course, Biden's doctor taking the 5th in this health probe. Wall Street Journal has a good article about Dr. Kevin O'Connor, former White House physician. He invoked the 5th Amendment over and over again, refusing to answer the questions, put to them about the probe into Biden's health. Now, he's also, and this is the thing, if they switch this to criminal, and they've already said to him, you have immunity. There's nothing you say here. And if it switches to criminal, which I think there's enough merit to do that, and they grant him immunity, he has to answer, because he has no in danger of the 5th. Did you see any of that? What's your take on the Biden doctor probe?
I did. And let me tell you this. I feel like it's another dog and pony show, because the reality of it is even Republicans should have been asking the question, and they never asked, I'm just waiting for them. Did anybody either in the Biden family or the Biden administration ask you to in any way not release anything that would be that would put him in a bad light or anything along those lines? The Republicans and Democrats alike, and part of this, did never ask that question. Which makes, because it would be an easy question. Did somebody ask you to lie to cover up the president? That's all you need to know.
I thought Comey did.
Not a version,
Comer.
but not directly. Comer did not directly.
Okay.
You could. I mean, I want a yes or no answer.
Right.
And he was able to weasel his way around it. Let's get it, and that's all we need to know.
Yeah. But he kept taking the fifth. He just refused to answer it. So no matter how they asked him, he was going to take the fifth. I'm saying I don't think he's allowed to take it if he's been given immunity.
I don't see the reason why he would at the same time for him personally, but I'm not a lawyer by trade. I did stay at a Holiday Inn one time and I did watch Law and Order, but
all versions of it.
But here's the deal though. The reality, the fact that he's taken the fifth means that he's hiding something. And so if he's hiding something, if he had nothing to hide, then he would say, no, absolutely. I stand by my feeling. I stand by what I reported. I stand that he was in sound mental health.
Here's the thing with Scotty, right? Either you are a horrible doctor because you never did the tests that you should have been doing, that any doctor would have, and you don't have to be the president at that age. There are certain cancer screenings and cognitive tests that were getting. I get those tests at my age, which is not young by any means, but certainly not Joe Biden's age, that they just do as a matter of course. So either you're a horrible doctor who didn't do the most basic stuff and there's a malpractice issue here, or you avoided those tests for a reason, which is it can't be both. You can't be a good doctor or be telling the truth at the same time. It's one or the other. Right.
And what was your motive for avoiding it? That's the bigger question.
That's absolutely what it comes down to. So we'll see what they're going to do the next 6. Again, we're to the situation we always are now. Prior in the last administration, when Comey or whatever did something, the Congress doesn't have the power to prosecute or charge you. They have to do a referral to the DOJ, but the DOJ was the Biden DOJ. So now we hope that at least Pam Bondi and those, remember the other thing is we don't have time to get into this, Kash Patel and these people that they all work for Pam Bondi, but this has to wrap up the show. Thank you so much for taking time out, Scotty, and joining us. And of course, you can be seen on the weekly report with the other senior fellows from the Frontiers of Freedom, and that audio will air Saturday and Sunday at 2 o'clock here on AM 830 WCRN. Scotty, have a fantastic weekend, and this will wrap it up. So everybody have a great weekend as well. Thank you, Scotty. Joe out.
Thank you, Joe.
This is Radio Central, 830 WCRN.